Hello, friends. I hope you guys are having a great Saturday. Thank you for joining. We are going to dive in, talk about a lot of things. As we are going through, if you guys are finding yourself having questions and you're like me, I have to get them out or I'll forget them. Please drop them in the chat box. We are going to have a Q&A at the very end where we will go over any questions that you have one by one and dive as deep as we possibly can. With that being said, I am going to share my screen and we are going to get started. Let's bring up, I did this nice little presentation for us and I am terrible with PowerPoint. So if I get stuck, I will go backwards or forwards or whatever the case may be. Now, what is this? So typically I do seller tip Saturdays on my social media. So every Saturday I go live with a tip or some kind of education for our sellers. With the NAR changes, I realized, hey, that is way more than I can talk about in one little, 5-minute clip on TikTok or Instagram or anything like that. So if you're here and you don't already follow me, on my social media channels, be sure to follow me because we will be giving you tips every Saturday. But this one today, because it is effectively changing the trajectory and landscape of real estate as we've known it in years past, definitely needed to go live for it. So who am I? Lex Hughes, I'm a North Carolina and South Carolina realtor in the greater Charlotte market. I have been licensed full-time for 7 years, and I consistently rank in the top 3% of agents in our market. To put that into perspective, we have about 16,000. Over the course of my career, myself and my organization, which is comprised of 50 agents in 8 states and 2 countries, have closed well over 360 million in volume. And you can see some of my accolades here. I'm not really good at talking about myself. I think, professionally, this all speaks for itself. As a person, I'm a mom of 3 kiddos, and I am obsessed with DoorDash and Instacart. It's just who I am and what I love, and I have a really hard time saying no to it. So let's dive in. What's our agenda going to look like today? First, we're going to go over the NAR changes. It's going to be an overview, and it's just going to tell you what it is, because some sellers, some homeowners, some buyers have heard of it, but some of you guys have not. So it's brand new news, and I want you guys to be as knowledgeable as possible. I've had some agents ask me why I'm doing this for homeowners, why I'm giving information away for free. And it goes back to one of the reasons I got into real estate to begin with. In 2017, we had sold and bought a home at the same time. And I really felt uneducated about the process as a whole. I felt like I was bothering my agent when I asked questions. And we ended up with our stuff on a moving truck for over a week because the house we were buying wasn't ready. And I realized, I can do better. I can make sure that clients are prepared. I can make sure that this doesn't happen to another family. I don't know if you guys could imagine May 2017, hot as can be, with a baby that just turned 1, a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and you're crammed into a small little house with all your stuff on a truck. It was not fun. And so at that point, I said, I will never be that agent. The next thing we're going to go over is, yes, these changes with NAR are great, and it's great that I know them, but how does that affect me when I'm interviewing a listing agent? And what questions should I be asking? Some of these are NAR specific, but some of these questions are questions you should have been asking all along, and you don't know what you don't know, so I want to make sure you know now. The next is Q&A. So I will touch on just about everything I can possibly think of during these 2 segments. But real estate is so different depending on what transaction you're doing. I can have 10 transactions. They're all going to be different. There's no way I'd ever be able to touch on every single scenario possible. And so you guys might have some scenarios or questions that I didn't touch on, and I want to make sure that we answer those to the best of our ability. So with that, let's get into it. The NAR settlement, what you guys need to know. Okay, so this has been something that has been going on for years, but in March of 2024, the NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, settled with some attorneys and the Department of Justice, and the basis of it is that, hey, realtors are pushing sellers into paying a buyer's agent. This is leading to price fixing. This is leading to antitrust monopolies. The National Association of Realtors is a membership basically that you can be a part of. And what it is it has a code of ethics that holds a realtor to a higher standard than, say, a real estate agent and the basic license law for that state. In the United States, there's approximately 2 million real estate agents. And of those 2 million, approximately 1.5 million are National Association of Realtor members. In some markets, the MLS that the real estate agents are part of require NAR membership to use the MLS. In the Charlotte market, we are one of those markets. So these changes and this settlement affects about 80% of real estate agents in the United States. How does it work? So there was a financial component. NAR is going to pay $418 million over approximately 4 years. They're going to have a release of liability. So it releases NAR and its members, all state and local realtor associations, all realtor-owned MLSs, from liability related to broker commission claims. It does state that larger brokerages with over $2 billion in transaction volume in 2022 are not covered by this settlement. So your mom and pop real estate brokerages likely covered by this settlement if they were NAR members. Big, national brokerages that have a lot of volume, they are negotiating their own settlements outside of this. But because I am a National Association realtor, I personally am covered. This is the big kicker. This is where it's going to affect homeowners. It's going to affect buyers. All of our agents, we're changing how we do things to go with this. Changes to MLS rules. So the most significant change is that offers of compensation will no longer be displayed in MLS. Instead, it's going to be negotiated directly between the buyers and sellers outside of MLS. And while it says this new rule takes effect August 17th, here in the greater Charlotte market, August 1st was our day. So if you go on MLS now, there's no offers of compensation. And a lot of people say, oh, this isn't a big deal. And the reason it kind of is because prior to this settlement, NAR required that brokers do what's called clear cooperation. So when I would go to a listing appointment before, I would negotiate a percentage. There's no set percentage. They're all negotiable. But for an example, I would negotiate, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to charge you 6%. And of that 6%, I was required to share some of it with a buyer's agent. So in that listing agreement, it would say 3% is going to go to me, 3% is going to go to a buyer's agent. And then when we entered it into MLS, we would put that 3% to the buyer's agent in there. The buyer's agents could see it. And that was basically like, you are definitely getting paid, right? Like, we're making sure you get paid, and the buyers are not going to have to bring that money to the table to compensate you. That is gone now. So effectively, clear cooperation is gone. We still have the code of ethics that encompasses a whole other myriad of ethical standards we need to abide by, but the clear cooperation piece is gone. Written agreements for buyer's agents. So buyer's agents are now required to have written agreements with their clients before showing homes. This rule takes effect August 17th, but many are saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and do this August 1st, because as of August 1st, commissions are no longer showing up in MLS. We need this in place before August 17th. So prior to the NAR settlement, you would call me because you saw a house. Hey, Alexis, I want to go see this house at 123 Main Street. Well, realtors at that time had the option whether to make you sign a buyer's agent agreement before they showed it, wait until you're ready to make an offer, wait until they showed you a couple of houses and you guys decided you wanted to work together. That's no longer the case. When you call me now, I have to say, I need an agreement signed. I'm going to send that to you and then I can schedule the showing. Seems odd. This is why it's important now. And this won't affect all homeowners, but it likely will, because most homeowners are selling their home because they're buying another one. So we're going to talk about listing specifically, but we're going to talk about why it's important that when you first start thinking of selling your home, you need to start interviewing agents for being your buyer's agent, but your listing agent as well. It'll save you a lot of headache. And then the last one, of course, NAR denies any wrongdoing. So let's get into it. Listing agent interviews, right? So all these changes, oh my gosh, they're in effect. And you guys probably have done it in the past where you go online and you ask your friend who they used, or you go online to find an agent to show you a house, and then they end up inadvertently listing your home. There is a myriad of different ways to do this. I am going to teach the way that I wish I would have done it before I was licensed and I was looking for an agent. Because I got online, found a buyer's agent to show me a house, and then she just ended up getting my listing. I'd never interviewed, didn't know her from Adam, lots of things. So what's important? Experience and track record. So you want to ask about their specific experience in your local market. It's great they have 20 years experience, but is all that 20 years experience here in the Charlotte market or whatever market you're tuning in from? Or is that experience all over? Is that experience mostly with buyers, or is that experience mostly with sellers? Find out what their experience is and request the details of their recent sales. You're looking at things like their average days on the market. What was the final sales price versus what the list price was? How listing heavy are they? How buyer heavy are they? Look at all those things and don't just take their word for it. There are printouts from MLS they can bring you that show the data, the facts. If you're joining in and you've been on any of my social media, you'll know like I'm a stickler for data and facts. Marketing strategy. What's their approach to marketing? Some listing agents, they do what we call a post and pray. They post a sign in your yard, they post it on MLS, and then they pray it sells. In the COVID era, where it was all crazy and madness, and you could slap a home up and it have multiple offers before going live with one photo on there, this wasn't as important. But now it is, because we're seeing the homes sit on the market longer. We're seeing them close a lot less. We're seeing a lot more price decreases. And this is in markets across the US. So it's not just specific to my area, it's all over. So what is their marketing approach? One of the things that we preached about, and I'm sure a lot of sellers have heard, is, hey, look at this listing where the agent took photos with their cell phone. Then look at this listing where the agent took photos with a professional real estate photographer. You can look at the days on the market for both of those. You can look at the close to list price ratio percentage, and you can see that the homes that have professional real estate photography sell quicker and for more money. So who are they having come in? Are they just doing marketing photos? If your area is a relocation hub, whether it be for jobs or people just coming to the city, we are. Why wouldn't you have a 3D Matterport tour? Why wouldn't you have a video that showcases the area? It's a relocation hub. People are in different states. Show it in its best light. So what is the agent that you're interviewing going to do? Other than posting and praying, what are they doing to earn their listing fee? And then understand how they plan to reach potential buyers. MLS is great. And then it syndicates to other websites. That's great too. But are they target marketing? So when someone is Googling homes for sale in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then they go get on their social media, is your home going to pop up there? Are they reaching out to buyers agents that have buyers that match the criteria for your listing? What are they going to do? Ask those questions. Then their pricing strategy. This is really important. A lot of agents will come in and they'll just give you a price, or they'll take your price. You've never seen what's called a market analysis. They need to be able to justify and prove why they are suggesting the price they are. And when I say a detailed comparative market analysis, you'll see down here, and sure they provide that. I mean, how are they adjusting out, right? So it's great that I come to you and I give you 3 houses in your neighborhood that are similar to yours. And I say, hey, based off of these, we should list at 500,000. Well, how did I arrive at that 500,000? Because house A has 4 bedrooms, mine has 3. House B doesn't have any of the quartz countertops, backsplashes, or the pool like I have. House C is 500 square foot lower than mine. How is that agent arriving at that recommended listing price? They need to be able to tell you that and show you some hard data on it. Communication. This is a big one because there's no right or wrong way to communicate with your clients or your agent, except for not communicating at all. Some agents prefer text messages, some prefer email, some prefer calls. How often are you expecting them to communicate with you versus how often they communicate? So if you are a client and you are interviewing me, you will hear me say, hey, you can expect to hear from me weekly updates. Generally, I send them an email. I'm always available for a phone call, but text messages are going to get you the quickest response. And in your mind, you're like, no, I want to talk to my agent every single day. Those are expectations that need to be set up front, because remember, you're hiring us and you're becoming our boss. We want to know what your expectations are. And then again, ensuring responsiveness. There's no reason why you send your agent a message or request a phone call and it takes them 24 hours to get back to you, unless they're dying in a ditch or in the hospital, and in which case I think we would all understand that they're not going to be as responsive. Next, references and reviews. You want to see reviews from past clients, read their online reviews. I always say, and agents hate Zillow for a myriad of reasons, but I always say Zillow is one of the best places to go and look at reviews, because Zillow ensures 100% that that review is coming from an actual past client. It's not coming from my mom, who thinks I'm the #1 realtor in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's not coming from my best friend. It's not coming from a lender that I give tons of leads to. It's coming from actual past clients that have worked with that agent. And you can even see like the areas where they bought the home. And then, I mean, you could take it a step further. You could say, hey, are there any of your past clients I could reach out to and talk to directly? I have had some potential clients of mine actually find a past seller of mine. They go on GIS, they find their name, they go on to, Facebook or Instagram, they find them, they message them. That's okay. I generally will say, try to get permission first, because not everybody likes getting a random call from someone, but that's okay too. Do your research. If they lack reviews, right? Well, how long have they been in the business? An agent that has 147 reviews is not necessarily better than the agent that has 5 reviews. That's just the fact that that agent's been in business longer. 147 reviews out of 500 past clients, and only 147 wanted to review that agent, maybe not so good. An agent that has sold 5 homes and got 5 reviews, I would probably lean towards that. And hey, if they have some negative reviews, that's great. I love 5 stars. I'm an all 5-star agent, but if I drop to a 4.8 or a 4.9, that would make me as a seller go to that agent and say, Patty Joe Smith gave you 4 stars, and in her review, she mentioned your lack of communication. What have you done since then to ensure this is not an issue moving forward? Right? Give them a chance to explain to you, and give them a chance to take accountability for the fact that maybe they didn't give that client 5-star service. And then how did they learn and grow from it? Nobody is perfect. No agent is perfect. No seller is perfect. So those reviews that aren't 5 stars actually give you a lot more to work with when asking questions. Your negotiation skills. You want to know that your agent can negotiate on your behalf. And this is a sticky little subject, right? Because you can't really determine how well they negotiate, right? Ask them for an example of a challenging negotiation that they had and how they handled it successfully. You also want to make sure that if you are hiring an agent to represent you on the list side and they've never sold a house before, okay, do you have support from someone that has listed a home before? And flip it. If you're interviewing someone to be your buyer's agent, okay, you've only listed houses. You don't even know what kind of offers you're getting accepted at this point. So you typically want to find an agent that's about 50-50 if you're doing a buy and a sell at the same time. If you're selling your house for the first time and you don't intend to buy, it's a-okay to use just a straight listing agent. But you want them to have some really good experience in both sectors, depending on how they're going to be serving you. And again, support team. Inquire if they work on a team, what roles do their team members play, all of that. And the reason for this is because every real estate team operates in a different way. Some real estate teams say, look, when Susie Q comes in as a lead and Alexis answers that lead and makes Susie Q a client, Alexis is going to be handling Susie Q from start to finish. Some teams say, hey, Alexis, you can handle Susie Q's buy side, but our team lead has to be the one that lists the property that they're selling. You have some teams where they just go show you houses and then you never hear from the agent again. Then you have some teams where you've got the agent start to finish, but they have maybe a transaction coordinator in the background. They're not doing any of your negotiating. You're not really talking directly with that transaction coordinator, but they are sending you relevant information about the process. They're ensuring that timelines are being met. They're ensuring that paperwork is done correctly. And so what type, or is it a one-man show? Is Alexis doing everything start to finish? You will never talk to anybody else again. See what that structure is and really ask yourself as a seller, what structure am I comfortable with? Like, if you're not comfortable with the method of communication and how that team works and operates their business, what you don't want to do is put that agent in a position to completely change their processes, because the ball is going to get dropped at that point. They're so used to doing things their way that it's not muscle memory at that point. The ball will get dropped. So make sure that the agent you're hiring actually has a structure for how their business is run start to finish that works and fits with what you're looking for. And also your primary point of contact, which should be your agent. It should be your agent, but sometimes the point of contact is an admin assistant. Are you going to like talking to their admin assistant rather than the agent? Because 9 times out of 10, the admin assistant can't really answer questions. They're just like, hey, I'm going to get Bobby Joe Smith, the realtor, to call you back. So make sure that you're ensuring that. Contract details, right? Your listing agreement. And this is one where these NAR changes are definitely going to affect how these go moving forward. So review the listing agreement carefully. You want to make sure that you know what has to stay with the home, what doesn't stay with the home. You want to make sure that you know when this agreement expires. You want to know how much you're being charged. You want to make sure that the information is correct. So if it's asking if there's a fuel tank, make sure you put yes if there is one. If it's asking if you have a mortgage, make sure you put yes if there is one. Review all the details, and don't just have the agent give it to you and say, hey, sign after you look it over. No, have them go over it with you and answer your questions. These are contracts, guys. Meaning, let's say you signed this and you hate your agent in a month. That agent doesn't have to let you out of that contract. That agent can absolutely sit until that contract expires and not let you out of it. These are contracts, and they can't be unilaterally terminated. They have to be bilaterally terminated, meaning you both agree and sign in writing to terminate it. The big thing that NAR is affecting is commission and fees, right? So ultimately what the DOJ's goal is number one, ensuring that buyers know they're on the hook for paying their buyer's agent. Not saying a seller can't, but in years past, buyer's agents would run around and say, oh, I can represent you for free, right? Because they didn't have to negotiate their commission. The listing agent had already done that because we were forced to, with clear cooperation for NAR. Now that's gone. So the buyer's agent cannot show a house until they have an agreement signed where the buyer has said, yes, I agree to pay you X percentage to represent me on the buy side. I understand that some homes will have sellers that offer to help with that or cover it all. And I understand there are homes that won't. And in the event they won't, I agree to pay you. This is signed before they're ever showing a house now. So when you are talking with a listing agent, whereas before you guys would broach the conversation of what to compensate a buyer's agent, I'm not saying agents aren't going to still do this. In fact, I'm 100% sure agents are still going to come in and say, my fee is 6% and I'm going to give 3% to a buyer's agent. And there are going to be some agents that refuse to take a listing if you don't agree up front to compensate a buyer's agent. Am I saying they're doing it wrong? No, because currently there's nothing illegal about that. But what I am saying is, it's my opinion, that mentality is coming from a place of protecting a buyer's agent when they should be protecting you, the seller, and your fiduciary. They owe fiduciary duties to you. So when I go to a listing appointment, in my contract, I'm just going to negotiate my fee. You're going to learn all about my marketing, what I'm going to do to help sell your home, how I work, what I recommend. You're going to learn all those things. And we're going to talk about my fee and my fee alone. Because remember, the buyer's agent is already going to have negotiated their fee with the buyer before they ever show your house. Every buyer's agent is going to have to call every listing agent to find out if the seller has agreed to compensate a buyer's agent and what that amount is. Because the fees, they're not on MLS anymore. That's the only way you can. So my sellers will hear my fee. We will put that in the listing agreement. The portion of the listing agreement that talks about what you're offering a buyer's agent will say 0. And I will get to why that is. And if agents are out there watching or see this, and they're going to get mad at me, but I don't care, because my duty is to my sellers. My duty is not to the buyer's agents. That is your job to negotiate your fee with your client, just like it's my job to negotiate my fee with my client. So the reason this is important for my sellers is, let's do an example. We had a listing at 123 Main Street. I charge you my fee, and we leave buyer agent 0. And Bob Smith with ABC Realty calls me and says, "Hey, Alexis, I want to see your listing at 123 Main Street. Can you send me the compensation form of what your seller is offering?" What that agent is going to hear from me is, my seller is open to offering concessions towards your buyer broker fee. Please submit your compensation form with your offer, and they will consider it. Let me tell you why. The rule is that for the buyer agreements that are being signed before showing, the agent can always go down, meaning if their agreement with their buyer says 3%, but the seller's only offering 2.5%, the agent can adjust it down, but they cannot adjust it up. So if they're charging their buyer 2.5% and the seller's offering 3%, well, they're only getting 2.5%. The buyer's getting the remaining 0.5%. So in my mind, why am I going to lock my sellers into a blanket offer of commission when we have no idea what that agent is charging their buyers? They could be charging 1.5%. They could be charging a $2,500 flat fee. Why am I going to have my sellers agree to give up tens of thousands of dollars that they didn't have to? And let's say the offer comes in very, very low or is insane. Like, no, the sellers need to have the option to say, yeah, you know what? This is a full price offer. I'm absolutely fine with adding concessions for this buyer broker fee at 2.5%. Or, no, Alexis, this offers 20 grand off. I'm ready to go under contract and everything, but I can only give 1.5% on this offer, because if not, I won't have my goal of the net proceeds I need to purchase my next home. So that is why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. And that is why I'm telling sellers, when you interview, do not let an agent stronghold you into a blanket offer of buyer agent commission. Don't let them. It's negotiable now. You will have some agents that will tell you, well, commission can't be negotiated with offers. And they're absolutely right. Commission can't be negotiated with offers. Remind that agent that the commissions have already been negotiated. I with my seller and the buyer with their buyer's agent. We're not negotiating the commission. We're negotiating who is paying that commission, i.e. the buyer. Where's the seller? I know, and I work with buyers too, so I understand that some buyers agents are scared. They don't like this. I understand that some buyers can't afford. Like, I get all of that. But at the end of the day, when I am representing a seller, I need to take my buyer's agent hat off and my empathy and all of that. And I need to put my seller's agent hat on and get bulldog for my seller. That it's just the way it is. Additionally, buyer's agents are going to get better at having these conversations. They're going to get better at getting these agreements signed. And that's something we all want, because how many times has a seller listed a home and a buyer's agent kicks the seller out of their home for an hour, hour and a half, shows a buyer, come to find out the buyer wasn't even pre-approved to buy your house, because the buyer's agent doesn't know how to have a conversation about getting pre-approved first. The buyer's agent may have been pre-approved, but they're going to use an agent that's 3 hours away to write an offer. And that agent's not in our MLS. Do you pay that buyer agent commission? They didn't show it. The listing agent, your listing agent, opened the door for the inspectors and everything. So there's a lot of different reasons why I agree that this is good for buyer's agents. But as the seller, make sure that you are not paying more than you have to. And interview multiple agents. Do not go with the first agent that you interview. And this will bring me to why it is important that even if you are a seller, because 9 times out of 10, before a seller is going to reach out to an agent to list their home, they're going to look at what they can buy and they're going to get excited. And they're going to want to go see houses that they see online. And so they're going to contact an agent and then go see it and then decide to sell if they decide to make an offer. I am saying, guys, to protect yourself and to get you the most amount of money and the best deal on whatever home you're buying, if you're buying two, interview agents first. And you probably need to start doing this about a month in advance of when you realistically want to begin the process. If not more, you can always interview way in advance if you know it's coming up. But this way you have it down to who you want to talk to and why. You really shouldn't have to interview more than 3 agents. I recommend at least 3, no more than 5, because after that, they're all going to run together. And I would do it over a 24 to 48 hour time frame. So that number 1, it's all fresh in your mind. And number 2, you can go ahead and make your choice and move forward. And make sure you're interviewing them on buying and selling. You're not just interviewing on the listing, you're interviewing on the buy. Because if you are selling and buying in the same area, or you want an agent that is familiar with how to do that. And ideally, you want an agent that is handling both of them, because a transaction can have up to 10 different people in the mix. You have your lender, you have your agent, the buyer's agent, you have a title, you have the attorney, you have your insurance company, you have a home inspector, you have HVAC. Like, there are a lot of people involved in one transaction. And so having one agent representing you on both the buy side and the sell side cuts down on all the middlemen. It ensures that they know your timelines, they know how to negotiate for you, rather than bringing in a whole other agent and a whole other set of people. And additionally, a lot of agents will provide you discounts to their normal fee for using you in both transactions. And if they don't, I mean, me personally, I find a different agent. Everything's not about money, but at the end of the day, this is your bottom line. This is the largest transaction you will ever do. And we want to make sure you have as much money as possible. And then understand services that are included in their commission, right? So my listings, for instance, I charge the same as what most of my peers charge. And my listings come with a professional deep cleaning, a professional carpet cleaning, a staging consult, high definition real estate photos, video, lifestyle videos, 3D Matterport tours, targeted marketing on social media. So understand exactly what you're getting. And if the agent is like, hey, look, I'm open to giving you a discount, but if I give you a discount on my fee, I won't be able to provide XYZ to it. Ask that agent, if you don't provide that, how will that affect? And some agents like me, I'll say, look, if I don't provide a 3D Matterport tour for your listing, it's not going to hurt you. You're still going to sell. It's just going to likely result in a lot of showings that otherwise could have been cut down because they don't like the layout of the home. That's your choice. If you want to save that money and be inconvenienced more, that's your choice. And there's no right or wrong about that, but make sure you're asking them how it will affect you. Open houses. So in years past, I've always been an advocate of open houses do not sell homes. And I know some agents that made their career from open houses. I know some agents that have held open houses, especially during the COVID madness. And yeah, whoever came through that open house ended up submitting an offer, right? As we move forward, open houses the first weekend you go on the market are going to be important. And the reason being is because a lot of buyers are going to start going to the listing agent directly because they don't want to pay a buyer agent commission or they can't pay a buyer agent commission. And in those scenarios, you, the seller, have to decide, am I okay with an unrepresented buyer? Am I okay with dual agency? What am I okay with? Dual agency is where the listing agent also represents the buyer. And in that scenario, they can't help you negotiate. They can't give you advice. They become a facilitator of your paperwork. And in that scenario, they also can't help the buyer. So are you paying a full commission for dual agency? Or are you saying, hey, look, Bob Smith Realtor, if you represent a buyer too, you're not giving me as much skill as I was originally paying for. So instead of 6%, I'd rather come down to 5%. Remember, you hold the ball, you can negotiate. An unrepresented buyer, what that means is I'm still your agent. I'm still helping you fully, helping you negotiate all that. But this buyer has said, no, Alexis, I do not want a buyer's agent involved in this transaction. I'm going to do it all myself. Okay, well, a couple of things to remember here. They can't get into your house by themselves, number one. You don't want them in your house by themselves. They are inevitably going to need someone to provide them with documents for signatures, e-signatures. Inevitably, if you have a good listing agent, they're going to be communicating with the attorney to make sure this buyer is staying on track with what they need to be providing, all that stuff. So in an unrepresented buyer situation, my fee may be 3% on the list side, but at time of listing, we're having this conversation and we're saying, hey, Alexis, I'm fine with an unrepresented buyer. I understand you're going to be doing a lot more work. I understand that if an unrepresented buyer comes, your fee goes up by 0.5% to 1%. Or you're going to say, Alexis, there's no way I want an unrepresented buyer that's never bought a house before buying my house. I don't think it'll see the closing table. I don't think it's worth paying you an additional percentage to handle those situations. Do not allow any unrepresented buyers to show up. There are many different scenarios. And so at time of listing, you need to be going over these and thinking about them very critically and what you're comfortable with. And an agent that's not going over this information with you at the listing appointment, I personally would not go with that agent. If you are not being thorough with your own money as an agent, what makes me think you're going to be thorough with my equity in my home? That is how I feel about it. So our main points to remember here. When you are on a listing appointment, address dual agency and unrepresented buyers. This is a conversation you need to be having, understanding, and it needs to be in writing. Okay. If the agent says, oh yeah, I'll do dual agency for 5%, make sure that that's in your listing agreement. If they say, yeah, if an unrepresented buyer comes, I'm not going to charge anything extra, make sure that's in writing in your listing agreement. Most states, if it's not in writing, signed by both parties, it's not enforceable. Address open houses and how you're going to handle those. Because as we move forward, I foresee open houses being a great tool to get the most amount of buyers into your home. At least for the first 4 to 5 months, buyers are going to be very leery about signing a document on a house with an agent. They have no idea who they are. And it's going to be a learning experience for all. Remember that your transaction is unique to your home. You want to resist comparing your situation to your friends or families, especially if they sold during COVID madness or 10 years ago, or maybe they're selling in Pennsylvania and you're selling in North Carolina, completely different. Even if your next door neighbor is in the middle of a transaction and you guys are discussing and comparing, understand that yours is different. So this neighbor could probably say something to the effect of, oh, I didn't have to pay that HOA transfer fee. And then you're looking at me like, Alexis, why did I have to pay that HOA transfer fee? Well, that buyer, their agent in their contract wrote that they would cover it. Or the listing agent said that seller will not cover HOA transfer fee. Buyer will. Typically, these are like $300, so it's not the end of the world. But just remember, there are little details like that are very unique. So if your neighbor up and starts taking TV mounts off the wall, don't you go take them off, because in their offer, they excluded the mounts. In your offer, you did not. So every transaction is unique. Talk to your agent. And I promise you, if you go on a community Facebook group and anonymously ask why your home isn't selling to a bunch of people that aren't real estate agents, you're going to get a myriad of answers. You need to make sure that your agent can explain things to you. And if you are sitting there saying, you know what, I don't know about this agent, you're within your rights to call another agent and ask for advice. An agent cannot approach you and say, hey, I see your home's been listed for 60 days on the market. I can get it sold quicker. No, that agent is unethical. Don't deal with that agent. But I have had it happen before where someone calls me and they say, Alexis, I'm listed with so-and-so. We've been on the market 60 days. My home's not selling. I'd really like to know why. Okay, I can't disparage that agent. I can't tell you that agent did anything wrong. But what I can say is when your listing agreement expires, I can go over what I would do to get your home sold. So keep that in mind. You control if and what you offer a buyer's agent. Do not let agents bully you into doing something that you don't have to do. Do not let them say, oh, your house is going to sit on the market. Your house is going to sit on the market. No, because guess what? No agent knows what's being offered without calling the listing agent first now. The reason that they used to sit on the market is because we could see they were only offering 2%. And so we could call our clients. And if you were a bad agent, you steered your clients. You wouldn't show the house, you refused to. That's a no-no. But in the way it was done past, I would call my clients and I would say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this listing is only offering 1% towards your buyer agent compensation. Our agreement says 2.5%. We can still see it and try to negotiate that percentage up, or you'll be responsible for the remaining 1.5% that is owed to me. And my clients say, nope, don't want to see it. That's not the case now. You're calling the agents, and here's the thing. Before, when you would offer a lower commission and you would ask me why your home is not getting showings, I had no clear concrete proof that it was because you weren't offering a higher buyer agent commission. No proof whatsoever. I just was going off my gut, like, hey, it's probably because we're only offering 1% and most buyers agents want to see at least 2.5%. Totally your choice whether we increase it or not, but that's one recommendation. And they have to just go with their gut on it. Well, now when you call me and say, hey, Alexis, why isn't my listing getting shown? Well, Bob, I've had 16 requests from agents wondering if you're offering a buyer agent commission. And when I tell them you're not, they are refusing to show the house. Either their buyers don't want to see it anymore or whatever the case may be. 9 times out of 10, their buyers don't want to see it anymore. And at that point, I can send those over to you. You're not just relying on my gut or anything like that. You are seeing point blank. I could have had 16 showings, but I didn't. So again, that's why I say do not lock yourself into a blanket number. Ask your agent to put in the additional provisions of their listing agreement or whatever. Seller will consider offering concessions towards buyer broker fee to be determined at time of offer. Very simple. And then it leaves the control in your hands. And I will tell you, since August 1st, I've had a myriad of text messages from agents showing my listings and asking for in North Carolina, it's called a Form 220 confirmation of compensation, asking for that. And my response to all of them, my sellers do not have a Form 220. They're open to offering concessions towards your buyer broker fee. Please submit your Form 220 with your offer. Guess what? They're all showing. They're all showing it. In fact, I've gone under contract on 2 listings since August 1st. So make sure that you are in control of what and if you're offering. And it's in your best interest to not agree to a blanket fee up front. It's just in your best interest. And then get everything in writing. We talked about that a little bit as well. So now is the time for Q&A. I'm just going to let you guys, I'm going to leave this up once I exit the full screen. And if you guys are thinking of selling or you have some questions you're not comfortable asking in the chat box, anything like that, you can scan below and book an appointment with me directly in my calendar. It doesn't matter if you're in my area or not. We will work with you. And if you're interested in connecting with an agent, we will personally vet the agents in your area and recommend a few for you to interview that do business the way we do business. So I'm going to exit full screen and I am going to see if we have any questions in our chat box. And as of right now, I don't see any questions. That means I must have done something good. with explaining everything. I'll give it a few minutes, and if you can think of a question, I'll go ahead and answer it here. But if not, I will let you guys be on your way with your Saturday and a beautiful weekend. Let me know. Okay, so what happens, I would say, let's see, what happens if an agent refuses to take the listing if I don't want to offer a buyer agent commission up front? That agent at this point in time is not breaking any laws. So you have to decide whether you want to work with someone that's going to bully you into something, or if you want to continue interviewing other agents. And then another question is, what is a reasonable commission? And correct me if I'm wrong here, you're asking like, hey, what's a reasonable commission if I have an agent that is going to represent me on the buy side and the sell side? That is how I'm answering this question, because that's how I read it. So the reasonable is in the eye of the beholder, right? So let me give you an example. If you come to me and you say, hey, Alexis, I want a home in a good area. Well, your definition of good is subjective. Mine could be completely different. What's good to you could be having a Target nearby and a Trader Joe's. And what's good to me is looking at a cornfield in my backyard. So I would say, instead of saying what's reasonable, look at exactly what that agent is offering. So I'm going to give you some examples, and this is my opinion, right? If I were interviewing an agent, knowing what I know. If an agent came to me and said, hey, Alexis, I am going to have professional, oh, someone said, thank you so much for putting this on. They're going to jump out. You are very welcome. I look forward to touching base with you. Thank you for joining in today. So if somebody came to me and said, hey, if an agent came to me to list my home and said, hey, I'm going to have professional photos, I'm going to put it on MLS, and I'm going to host one open house. Why? That doesn't, in my opinion, and I'm an agent, that does not earn them 3% of a $500,000 house. I don't care what their splits are, what their referral fee, that just does not. That does not. And I understand once it goes under contract, there's some other things involved. But if it's a turnkey house, it's going to go under contract quick. You're going to get a pretty decent offer. So in that scenario, no, I would not be paying 3%. My fee, personally, when I am offering all the things I talked about, plus a lot of other things we could go over in a listing appointment, my fee is typically 3%. And if you are also buying with me, I will take off 0.5% of that on the listing side. And in that scenario, you're paying, 2.5% typically on a buyer agent, which I'm going to do everything possible to negotiate that the seller pays. And then you're paying 2.5% on the list side. Now let's talk about it a little bit in depth, because I am also one of those people. Every single scenario is different, right? So if you guys are facing foreclosure, or you guys have very little equity in your home, and I'm running a net proceeds sheet for you with my 3% in there, and I realize, guys, you're going to be negative, or you're going to barely have money to put down a down payment on a new home, we're going to talk about that, because in that scenario, I'm going to negotiate my fee down. I'd rather help you and have the listing and help you buy than not. So let's see how we can work it out. In that scenario, it may be 1.5%. It may, hey guys, I'm gonna list your home for 1.5%. At 1.5%, your home is beautiful, so we don't need the staging console. You're OCD clean, so I don't need to have it professionally deep clean. Guys, this is gonna go multiple offers the first day. We don't need the lifestyle video. So yeah, that's where we talk about that negotiation. And they said no mortgage. So in this scenario, it's all about your net proceeds and what you feel comfortable with. So if I were to meet with you, I'd go over all of that. In your scenario, there's no mortgage. By turnkey, I'm assuming that it's like show ready, clean, decluttered, ready to go. Like I literally could send my photographer there tomorrow and it'd be good to go. In that scenario, I mean, I could do it less. I am not above it. I have taken a 2% listing before and they still get everything. So it also depends too. Is your house a $200,000 house? Well, I have to look at my expenses, right? So I would say you seem to want a very specific answer on what I would do. Personally speaking, on the list side, I would probably take your listing and at 2% on the list side. And if you're going ahead and buying with me too, I would have no issue doing 2% on the list side. And you would, at 2% at the price point you're saying your house is, you would pretty much be getting my full listing package at that point. I hope that helped. I can't talk about what other agents do because there's no standard, but that's why when you interview, want you to look at every single thing, and you've already bought, so that's okay too. I mean, 2%, if it's turnkey and it's beautiful and it's going to go multiple offers, why, what am I doing to justify charging you more? Does that make sense? When you're interviewing agents, make sure that what they're charging is justified by what they're providing you. Yes, we do have splits. Like, for instance, I don't mind talking about me. I'm an open book. With my firm, my split is 80%, 20%. So I give my firm 20% of every deal until I cap at 16,000. Once I cap, I pay a $250 transaction fee, but then I keep the rest of that for myself. In those scenarios, like, I'm in a great position, but there are some firms that are 80-20, but then that agent is on a team and the team leader is going to take 50. And so every single real estate agent is different. I will say you will typically have more negotiating power with an agent like myself that doesn't have to pay a lot to the firm, is at 100%, than you will with an agent that's on a team. Zillow, if you call agents from Zillow and they're part of Flex, they have to pay Zillow like a 40% referral fee plus their firm split plus their team split. They're likely not going to negotiate very much on their commission. But like agents like myself. So I am a team leader for my team. It's WES Signature Properties. We operate in eight states and 2 countries. And yes, I am essentially a brokerage owner. What I did is I aligned my brokerage with eXp Realty. It's the largest international brokerage in the world. And that was so that I could tap into every single market out there. So I could be of assistance and grow in those areas, as well as start working overseas. So my firm gives me very little rules on what I can do, but they offer a lot of tools that then benefit my clients and allow me to negotiate more because I don't have to pay for those out of my own pocket. I hope that makes sense. All righty. So let's see, any other questions out there? I love this conversation. It's been great so far. Again, I'll put that, I'm going to put this back up. If you guys want to grab this real quick, I'll go ahead and screen share again and put that back up so you can do a appointment with me so we can get into details, nitty gritty. And I can, again, remember every transaction is different. So if you can set an appointment with me, I can tell you exactly detailed what I personally would do for you and your home, knowing all the facts and knowledge. Guys, thank you for joining us today. Alexis Hughes, North Carolina, South Carolina agent. If you find yourself in a position a month or 2 from now, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm interviewing these agents and I don't know that if this is right, or I forgot, or anything like that, do not hesitate to text or call me, even if you don't want to use me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine, but I want to make sure that you have the support and knowledge. So definitely save my information. You can follow me on social media. We do Seller Tip Saturdays. I have a YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the whole 9 yards, and the handle is at Alexis Hughes Realtor. Down here is my email address, alexis.hughes@eXp Realty. And my cell phone number is 704-773-2117. Be sure to save all that information and look at me as an ally in your journey. And I hope y'all have a great Saturday and a wonderful rest of the weekend, y'all. Bye, everyone.